So, I get the same questions over and over again about solitary bee habitats when people are considering making them. Most of these questions relate to the sizes of the drill bit you use and the depths of the hole, but also what sort of wood should I use, where should I place it in my garden, how high off the ground, the orientation with the sun, stuff like that. So I thought we'd make a video of a really simple design of a solitary bee habitat that most people can make, that will also be really functional and attractive. So for this, I'm using different materials to you, but try and find wood and materials that's similar. Okay, so for a start, the wood you want needs to be as seasoned as possible. This is an old piece of oak. So as seasoned as possible, as in age, the older the better, the drier the better, and the more chance that any chemicals that were in the wood have gone. A perfect example of this would be a nice bit of hardwood driftwood that's on a beach, because it's been in the ocean, it's been cleaned and cleaned and cleaned, then it's dried out and it's aged to perfection. Hardwoods don't soak up as much water. They're harder to drill into, but the hole is much better. And bees, I don't know why, and I'm no expert, but they, in my opinion, seem to prefer nice, clean, straight, deep holes. Okay, so nice bit of aged hardwood if possible, but if all you've got is a piece of old pine, that will work fine. It might not last as many years, but it will be absolutely fine. The most important thing is dry and aged. Okay, if you have to use new wood, it's not a problem, it'll age itself, but you might not get as much take up in it as you might do if it's older from the start. Okay, so we need that. We need some bamboo. I've got a set of bamboo here that's just a cut off of a length I built for another habitat. So there's a little bit left over. So bamboo, now, generally speaking, if you buy this online, it's not going to come with the holes in. They're going to be filled with the fibrous matter that you get in the bamboo, but you can drill that out. So and that's what we're going to do. And I do that all the time. You've probably seen that if you watch my videos. I stand there and that's why I have this on, and then I put tape around it and I drill, and then I chop off, and then I tape it and drill again. It's so much easier that way than doing each piece individually. So not the end of the world if it's not got the holes, but if you do find old bamboo, we'll have the holes in it, because this bit tends to rot away, not rot away, just, I don't know, come out, because it's like a fibre, like a husky material. So we need that. It's going to form the inside. And while I talk about that, I'm just going to pop a picture of what it will look like on the screen now, so you can see where we're going with this. And that's the two main ingredients for this. Then we need a piece, I haven't got it here, but we need a piece of board for the back that we can stick everything to, stick the bamboo to with a bit of PVA, screw this to, okay. And then the final thing is going to be some sort of roof. Now I've got some slate here, horrible to work with, so I don't recommend you use this at all, but that's what I'll be using, because you can see here this slate that I bought for another project just kept breaking, and these are broken bits that I had left over. So again, I mean, I'll have to, you know, cut that in a certain way, and it will be a bit of a pain for me. But what I suggest you guys use, you know, use that. You can use an old bit of flooring, of tile, like kitchen tile. I've used that before, like a nice big tile. You can use, I've used laminate floor, not laminate, that would soak up water because it's MDF. The vinyl flooring, I've used that. Trouble with vinyl flooring, in the sun it gets really saggy, and it tends to droop. So something, the thicker the better. Ideally what you want, if you've got a piece of wood you're using for the main part of this habitat where the holes are going to be drilled, then you could double a couple of pieces up like I have here and down them together and make a nice roof. What we're looking for, as with this one, it's the wrong way round, but you can see you need a nice big overhang over the front of the habitat. Keeps the rain off, keeps the wind off a little bit, and more important, it allows the heat from the sun to get to the habitat because it's facing that location but it won't be direct sunlight all the time, and the bees won't overheat, and neither will their larvae, which is really important. Okay, so that's a real basic. Obviously, tool wise, ideally nice pillar drill would be great, and a nice chop saw if you've got one, but all this can be done by hand. And we're going to be doing 45-degree cuts on here, but you don't have to do that, and we'll cover that if it's easier, because we're just doing a square and then turning it 45 degrees, or maybe 90, to make a diamond. Okay, but you don't have to do that, and you can play with this however you like and do it you want, but you could essentially just cut 90-degree cuts here instead of 45s and just butt them together, and we'll cover that. But okay, so that's where we are. A handsaw and a hand drill is going to be what you need for this, but none of the big stuff is essential. So let's move on. I'm fairly limited with my piece of wood because that's all I had in this wood. So you might have loads, in which case this isn't an issue. But first thing I've done is roughly mark out using a set square here with the 45, because it's very easy cut 45. It's right down the middle. I've marked out where the angles are just to make sure that I've got enough for the whole length, including the saw widths, which you have to take into account. Now, if you want to get this as long as possible, I'm using 19 centimeters, and what I'm doing is I'm doing a first cut there, and then I'll use that as a template, turn it round, and then you don't get any waste because you're starting your long edge from the short side of the previous one, and then there, and you come back, and then the long edge, come back, and the long edge. You get the most out of your wood with the least waste that way. So mark up your piece of wood. These further cuts aren't that important. It's the first one, because once you've done one, you'll be putting that, turning it around, putting it there, marking it accurately. This was just to make sure that I had enough at 19 centimeters for the whole bit of wood. All right, we'll move on. The first cut done. My chop saw blade is on its way out, but in the spirit of making things last and recycling and all that, I never change it until last minute, until it absolutely needs it. And it absolutely needs it, because as you can see, it's burning the wood. It is still cutting it, but it's a pain in the bum now to use. But I'm determined to get this last set of cuts out of that blade before I change it. I have got one to put on. So anyway, because it doesn't matter if it's burnt. The blade's on its way out. I don't care about destroying the blade now, but it does make it harder. Because these are going to be hidden anyway, and you can see it's doing the edges in a little bit, which a nice new blade wouldn't do. This cut was fine. Actually, it's only the bottom that will get the furring anyway. So once you've got the template, this is going to be what you use all the way along. So you flip it round. We're going to mark up here, cut that one, then use the template again. The reason you do it this way and not cut them all in one go is because the cut line is an 1/8 of an inch. A 1/16 of an inch sometimes, maybe less. And obviously you're taking that off each cut, and if you do it all in one, there'll be different sizes. It's not the end of the world. We're doing this for aesthetics, but it doesn't really matter if this looks rough and ready, as long as it works for bees. That's the most important thing. But like I was saying earlier as well, while I'm on the subject, if you want to do a 90-degree cut, it's a hell of a lot easier. But then what you would need to do is make sure that 2 of your lengths are twice the width longer than the other 2, and that's because if I just grab a pencil, I'm still missing my tripod, which you can probably see, so I'll write on this. So and that's because we're doing a diamond, which is fine, they're all the same lengths, so it's nice and equal all the way around. You can't really see this, but you get the idea. But however, if you're doing a square like this, then 2 lengths need to come all the way up. It's very simple to do it this way, and then the 2 that come across, obviously it's not going to be a square because you turn it into a diamond, but so you can see these are shorter, so the widths here this length needs to be 2 of those extra, and these are shorter. Does that make sense? As long as they all come out to the same length across here. So say this is, perfect example, this is 6-inch square. These would be 6-inch, these would be 4-inch. because these are 4 inch plus 2 inches, okay, because the width would be 1 inch across. So you can do a square, but you have to cut them different lengths, whereas a diamond, if you have got the right tools and you can do a 45, makes it easier. So okay, they're all cut, nice joins on here. These aren't particularly together, it's on a bit of foam, so I can't get them together, but all cut. Don't worry about what it looks like finish wise at the moment, because we're going to clean all that up. I'm going to do it on a sander here, which is a fantastic little machine. You can do it by hand, or you could use, just go over here, if you've got one, you could use an electric hand sander. It's a great orbital sander there, which are really good. But you can even do it by hand. I mean, I'm using oak, so any automation is going to help, because it is quite tough, especially the older it gets, because it kind of hardens oak as it gets older. Almost, I mean, some oaks that are in buildings that are 400 years old that have been properly looked after are like stone, they're so hard. So that's why oak is really good, and if a bee sees a bit of oak, it'll be straight in there. So the reason why we're putting it on a diamond and not a square, I meant to say this earlier, is because it just make it easier. It looks nice as well, but when you're putting a roof on, you know, water's going to want to fall off at the angle, so why make it harder? If you do a square, then you're going to have to put a pitch on it so that it falls this way and the water comes off, or another bit of wood at the back, and then when you put the roof on, it will be at an angle. I mean, this is going to do all that work for you, having it here. So we're just going to put a bit of wood that side, you're going to put a bit of wood that side, and a bit of wood that side. I'll use slate. So there you go, that's the first part done. The next bit we're going to do, in the next video, we're going to start drilling these out.